How would you respond in the situation when the border between family and betrayal are crossed so loudly that even generations shiver?
I think about things like, there was a time and period.
I'm not sitting here.
Miss McCrory.
In one of the most shocking courtroom tales that have ever been on air, a man thinks that his great-uncle could be the father to his daughter.
Been claimed the defendant's ex-husband, Mr. Gino Bailey, who you say you will return to court to fight for your share of Social Security death benefits after today's test proves he is the father. Is that correct?
Yes, Shauna.
In more than 3 explosive episodes, secrets are revealed, relationships are destroyed.
And so I fell in love with that child, and I'm gonna be with her for the rest of my life and get married to her, so why not take responsibility for somebody who couldn't?
And DNA findings cause more mayhem than lessons learned.
I have to ask you, do you know who your child's father is?
It is not so much a tale of paternity, but one of faith, deception, and unresolved shadowed chatter. Strap yourselves in, because this is not merely dramas, this is dramas at magnitude. Time to get down and dirty to speak in secrets. The DNA bombshell that got it all started. The beginning was a standard paternity test, which was supposed to identify the father of little Nivea. Yet in its place of closure was a novel that exploded suspicion. Mr. McCrory, who was a loyal husband and a father, was not the biological father of Nivea, and this dented his confidence. On the one hand, the betrayal of his wife was not somewhere in the open, but it was concealed in trust, routine, and blind comfort of familiarity. That exposure sent Mr. McCrory went into emotional overdrive and caused him to suspect something more shocking. Could his great-uncle, his blood, be the man who had gotten to the point of fathering his own child?
He's sitting there saying that, oh, she's got my eyes, and smirking at me, oh, she's got my fangs, she looks just like me. And he actually texted my wife at the day of birth and said, congratulations, and can I see her?
A breakup as a timeline trap. In the period of conceiving Keith Jr., the couple had separated a little. At that, Rose acknowledged having had unprotected intercourse at those times.
During that window of conception, that time, were you intimate with anyone else?
Up until I was intimate with him from August until November.
But still, she did not believe that it was cheating. Her defense? We had not been together. However, such a reasoning did not make it less painful. Although she was sure that Keith Jr. is her husband, the court underlined to the whole world that the law of biology disregards marital statuses. That little time away was sufficient to cause doubt to sidle in and bed down itself. Digital infidelity and Facebook photos. Mr. McCrory was not just talking the words, but he presented digital receipts. He has indicated suggestive photos on Facebook, which Rose had posted that she had also sent to the other man. She made out that the two were simple yet innocuous sports bra shots. These pictures did not simply become pictures to Keith, since they were symbols of disrespect as well as continual secrets. He was not disturbed by the fact that there was lingerie, but by the fact that some other man, perhaps his great-uncle, could see the intimate vision that was only intended to be seen by a husband. A stranger at home. It becomes more chaotic. The man who Rose slept with was not a stranger. The husband and wife knew him, and he was a frequent drinker at their house and a frequent couch sleeper. Just think of how petrified you would be that the prospective father of your son could have drunk your beer, sat at your dinner table, and then sneaked into the life of your wife when she was defenseless to discover yet another life growing. It was not only painful to Keith to realize that, it made him doubt his reality. A lie detector doesn't lie. After losing confidence, Mr. McCrory wanted a polygraph test to be conducted. Rose assented, but there was cheating. She did not mention all the sexual contacts when they separated. Suddenly, Keith was no longer questioning the paternity of his son, no longer questioning the whole story which his wife had woven. It was not a single error. It was cover-up after cover-up, and it was overlying with confident denials. The courtroom did not only show the truth, but brought to light a web of dishonesty, of omissions. The great-uncle theory being discovered, in come the twist, Rose had been caught in bed with none other than the great-uncle of Mr. McCrory. This was no guesswork, it was a personal experience. Years ago, McCrory caught them in a compromising position. That memory played with him, and now, as Nivea was not his child,
These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics when it comes to 3-year-old Nevaeh McCrory. It has been determined by this court, Mr. McCrory, you are not the father.
he started wondering, did the history repeat itself? Were the biological chances of his own family betrayal the result of a baby that he regarded as his own? A marriage on the edge. Through all this commotion, Keith and Rose were on the edge of a marital breakdown. Keith mentioned extreme emotional distress as his explanation that he still loved his son, but he could no longer go on with the lie.
I want a son that I can actually see, that I could play baseball with. I mean, I still love my son, and I'm still there for him. But I want to raise my son, Keith. I want to give him my last name and have him give the junior on to his son to play ball with him, to, toss the baseball, play sports with.
The marriage in which they dreamed of a common family name and family heritage was left only with suspicion and courtroom confessions. The court was a war zone as much as it was a case of truth. Kids who were bulls in the crossfire, innocent children Nivea and Keith Jr. were caught in the middle between this mess and in between confusion and conflict. They did not want DNA wars or court drama. They were entitled to love, stability, and truth. However, this could not be the case since the unresolved issues of their parents now acted as the determinant of their childhood because they were surrounded by scandal. And this was no paternity battle. This was a matter of ripple effect, the strength of refusal and illusion. Rose kept saying that she was 1,000% certain that Keith Jr. was her husband's child. But conviction is not bending at all in courtroom and science. She was so positive, but it almost felt like obstinate denial to her, rather than the truth. The worst thing about believing a lie is building your life on it. In this saga, Rose could not relinquish her truth, despite pieces of evidence wearing it down. But viewers and Judge Lake did not buy this, and neither did Keith, who sat there in silent torture. Right and wrong versus pride. Keith did not only seek facts, but the truth. But the truth is not for free. The betrayal was harder when striking Rose about the great uncle. Not only was it an affair, but it was a betrayal against the family. It was not a quarrel of women of love, it was the shame of generations. The mindset that his son is his blood relative. DNA verdict. The DNA test evidence proved that Keith was indeed the real biological father of Keith Jr.
These results are prepared by DNA Diagnostics and they read as follows. It has been determined by this court, Mr. McCrory, you are the father.
It was a beautiful twist that added a piece of happiness in an otherwise doubtful story of doubt. Even in that happiness was pain, because the knowledge which reveals the truth does not wash out the wounds inflicted by falsehood. It was his child, all right. But what about the harm inflicted? Revelation aftermath. Notwithstanding the acquittal, the couple remained different following the court address. Even their marriage was not tested beyond anyone's imagination. Rose was biologically justified nonetheless. The scar existed on the emotional side. Keith was not only a father, but rather a man who even was betrayed by not solely DNA, but rather a lack of honesty. And they swore to talk it out in the privacy of a law court with Judge Lake. But the world already had seen their most grievous wounds. This was the most difficult of all, healing. There are those stories that have an end. This is the last to be complex. Whereas DNA confirmed that Keith Jr. was the son of his father.
Mr. McCrory, you are the father.
The emotional devastation that occurred at the end makes us realize that the truth is not always innocent. It is the truth. It reveals our flaws that we wish would be covered, our deceits that we wish to forget, and our affection that we promise to endure everything. Mr. McCrory found his answer. Perhaps at what cost? Not only has a relationship been bruised, but a marriage has been battered and legacy shaken. And as much as Rose might have proven true eventually, the path upon which she manages to go down to that point was full of failure. People just need to understand that one of the main things in the court of public opinion is the journey itself, because since it was not always the case, the facts are not always enough. At least this saga makes us realize that paternity is not merely a matter of biological affiliation. That courage can sometimes be the only thing stronger than DNA.